So we've been playing a game called Marry, Quarantine, Social Distance with Katrina, Sam, Richard.
Oh, man.
I know it's a hard one.
I'm going to get in trouble for any of these answers.
Well, just think of it this way. Marry is one, we know that. Quarantine with, social distance from. So you might be protecting them ultimately.
This is true. In a weird way, I'd probably marry Katrina because we can just cook and drink wine. That's fine. Ooh.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
I know. I will quarantine with Sam because he has to do whiskey out and we can just drink whiskey. And then just have some space. And Richard, I'll social distance from Richard because we're going to start work again in a few months anyway. So, we'll have some time apart and then I'm sure we'll have lots of time together on set.
And you can Zoom call him. He can sing to you over a Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. Play the guitar.
All right, second round of that, and then we'll get to our real questions. Lauren Lyle, Cesar, and John Bell.
I'd marry John Bell.
Okay.
I would. Oh no, I don't know now. Hang on. This is difficult. I'd quarantine with Lauren because that would just be so much fun. Let's just say, fine, I'll marry John Bell and I'll just wave to Cesar from afar. But I feel like I could marry Cesar too, so I don't know.
You're like, I want to marry everyone.
I know, I feel really bad. I want to hang out with It's so weird because we all spend so much time together, and then obviously we all thought we were going back in May.
I know.
Now it's like just your family that you just don't see. And we're like,
so are you in LA or are you back in the UK?
So I'm back in the UK right now. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was an interesting journey.
I know. Were you scared on the plane?
It was weird. I mean, so I flew. I'd actually been talking to Sam Hewen because he's flying back with British Airways, and my flight was Virgin, but right now it's Air France. And he was saying, just British Airways are not serving any alcohol. Like, it'll be just take your own, see how the flight goes. But Air France was great. I mean, they
I don't understand the lack of alcohol. Like, if any time we need alcohol, it might.
I know, exactly. I think honestly the alcohol sales in the UK have gone up by, I want to say 30-something%, I think.
I want to say 300%.
I know. And I was like, how much Brits drink anyway for it to go up, I think.
What's the first thing you're going to do when you guys get back to set, when you see each other?
Probably all just hug each other. And then, I don't
with
know. With us, I'm sure it'll just go back to, feeling like we've had no time apart because we all just say, well, I think it'll be fine from the off. But I have had a slight worry that I might start being a socially awkward person because I feel none of us have seen people in so long. And I feel like when I do, I'm just not going to know how to interact. Like,
I know. I was concerned about that too. I was like, this is doing so much damage to our psyches right now. Like, you can't go out in New York City even for a walk without a mask. Otherwise you get shunned. So, and I feel like we need masks that you can see expressions because right now, you can't even show people that you're happy. You know what I mean? Or that you're stressed out and nervous.
That's true. I went into a shop the other day and I was smiling at the woman on the door. And then I realized she can't actually see that. It just looked like I was staring at her. But I was like, I hope my eyes look light.
I do this and I'm like, I actually think I'm scaring people.
Yeah. No, I look like I'm on drugs. Great.
Okay. So I have a question. What kind of prep did you do when you got Outlander? Did you read the books or read at least one book? And did you binge season 1?
So when I first auditioned for Outlander, it was, I want to say 2014. And season 1 actually it wasn't out yet. I don't think they'd finished it. I think initially they were planning to bring Brianna into the end of season 1. I mean, I didn't know that at the time. So I did. I called my local bookstore, as you do in England, and I just said, can you get these books in for me for the next couple of days? I didn't have much time, so I didn't look at the first book because Bree's not in that. But I looked at 2, 3, and 4. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tried to just skim and get Brianna's bits because I really didn't have much time, so that I went back and read them again. And that was because a lot of my audition scenes were actually from season 4, because I feel like that's when Brianna starts to become Brianna. Yeah. Me, I think she's kind of an onion. There's a lot of layers to peel, and you only start to really get to know her and see the woman that she becomes in book 4, I think. So yeah, I did that, and then I didn't hear anything for about a year, and I just thought I hadn't got it.
Oh, that's like the longest.
I know, and the thing is, you go to auditions and you don't hear, and you just have to deal with that. But some of them really sting, and with Brianna, I felt weirdly protective over her as a character, and because a lot of people, she's a bit Marmite. People love or hate Brianna, and people love to hate Brianna. But there was something in her in the books that I really liked about her, and it stung a bit. And then it was only a year later when I got a call to say like, "Hey, can you audition for Brianna in Outlander?" And I was like, pretty sure I did.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
So I just figured someone else had got the role, and then it turned out that they brought her into season 2 instead of season 1, so they just never cast it.
Okay.
So then, that time round, I binge watched the show and read the books again, and I must have watched the show season 1 about 10 times over, because I was just trying to incorporate loads of Jamie and Claire's mannerisms into Brie and just really get a feel for the show and everything else. So season 1, I don't know if I could watch it again because I've seen it a lot.
So as a viewer, what was your favorite episode in season 1, would you say?
Controversially, it's not the wedding scene, I don't think, the wedding episode.
I get why, in a way.
Yeah, there's a lot of love for that I think. I think
you're also like, oh, those are 2 friends of mine.
I know. I'm like, that's
just the whole time. So, yeah, like congratulations, but I'm gonna watch a different one.
Something in there I need to put in the performance is fine. Give them their privacy. I think, and maybe this is just coming to my mind because of the bonnet scene that was just out, and it's relatively similar, but I think maybe the scene where Blackjack kind of kidnaps Claire, and they sort of have that little cat and mouse game at the dinner table. I don't know what episode that is, but
when you first started the show, were you intimidated to meet your co-stars, to meet Sam and Katrina? Like, who intimidated you the most on set?
So I'd met Katrina at my screen test. I'd flown out to Los Angeles, and honestly, on that trip, I think everything that could go wrong on a trip went wrong. Like my Uber crashed. It was terrible. So I was like, one good thing has to come of this. So I'd met her really briefly in that screen test anyway, so I didn't feel as bizarre to see her again. With Sam, I'd already met Richard as well, so probably Sam because I hadn't met him. But we actually didn't start working together properly until like 2 years in, which was weird. When we did that meeting scene, it was like, we actually haven't filmed together yet. We'd been on press tours and everything, but so maybe meeting him was the strangest just because I hadn't so far. But honestly, it was at the read-through, and everyone's just really excited for them, it was the finale, so they were winding down, and then Richard and I came in all fresh-faced with all this energy, and I think they were a bit like, okay, just calm down now, we're wrapping up a year's filming here. But yeah, they just kind of welcomed me with open arms, and it all just fit in really nicely. It all just felt like a family straight away.
Nice. So you guys have been working together a long time. What would you say is one thing you've learned from Katrina?
I think Katrina has a really good way of, fighting for things that she's passionate about in a script, but doing it in a very sophisticated way, if you like. I think that's maybe one of the reasons that she wanted to become a producer, just because she really is good at looking at the story as a whole. Often you really want to fight for your own character, but with Outlander, there's so many intricate details in the show and things that if you change that now, then 2 seasons down the line, something else can't happen and things like that. So maybe just looking at the whole picture of things and the whole season as an arc instead of just each individual episode.
Yeah, actually, one of my questions is going to be, how is it with Sam and Katrina being producers? Do they walk around set wielding their new power and boss you around?
Yeah, they carry around producer chairs and crowns, and no, it feels very much the same on set. I think a lot of what they do, obviously they have a voice on set, but a lot of the producing prep in general is before the 2 episodes. We do 2 episodes a block, so they'll kind of prep just before that. So a lot of it would be more in that you can kind of go to them and just say, hey, look, can we talk about this bit, or just if you've got any things that you're worried about or any changes that you might want to talk through or something. It's good to go to Sam and Katrina first, but they were always like that. They're the 2 that held up the show from the beginning, and so they always had that aura and approachability about them anyway. In terms of on set, no, they're just as goofy as ever.
I was actually going to ask, like, I was actually going to ask, like, you know, having Katrina, especially as a producer, having a woman like advocating for you, does that feel empowering a bit?
It really does, yeah. And you know, it's not always, and this is one thing too that I think we do fall into a trap of sometimes, that it's, you know, just kind of women fighting for women sort of thing, because actually we've had some male directors who've been incredibly great at fighting for, you know, things that you may feel isn't particularly the best depiction of your character as a woman or whatever else, especially with Brianna, because it can lean into the kind of bratty child-like thing, and trying to, you know, help her progress as a young mother and a single mother and everything else is important, and especially dealing with PTSD and a lot of feminine issues in that time, it can get a bit sticky.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely Katrina has been an absolute godsend in terms of all of that. But yeah, you know, we've had male directors and producers who've been amazing, and then you have females who maybe aren't as understanding, and so it's funny the dynamic that you get.
I work in a lot of women's rights organizations, and it's funny, people assume it's like women supporting women, and I haven't always found that to be the case. And I actually think like gender equality is so nice in workplaces, because like men and women, we see things differently. So I'm sure it like balances it well to have Sam's view on things and Katrina's view as producers. How is that different sometimes?
Definitely, because I think, you know, they're both very calculated. But then obviously, like all of us, you can react on instinct sometimes as well. So to have the two of them, they usually tend to, when one's reacting on instinct, the other one's being quite calculated. So they tend to balance each other out really well, which is great, because then you do get the full spectrum of, you know, looking at something objectively and talking it through without all just acting on instinct or whatever, on emotions.
That's good. It's like bad cop almost. Not bad cop, but good cop.
No, completely, yeah. And it's good that they kind of oscillate, and then, you know, I'm sure we all have our moments where, you know, you feel really passionately about something, and maybe it's blocking and it's getting to you, and then, you know, one of them will agree, but one of them's like, no, look at it this way, and it's just good because we all kind of tend to complement each other in that way.
Awesome. So let's switch to something a little more fun. What I know, you know, fans love hearing, like, you guys share such great behind the scenes videos, and you seem like you have a lot of fun on set. So let's start with, who's your favorite scene partner to work with? I know you like them all probably, but sometimes, like, what day are you just like, oh, this is great?
I do love working with Ed, as weird as that is, given the material that we have, but he is just he reminds me of Tobias in that way. They're just so kind of intense and in it that it's, it can be really fun. I mean, everybody can have scenes like that too, you know, where they're just completely in it, but also it's nice to balance that out with sort of laughing between takes, which often, you know, Sam and Katrina can do. Favorite scene partners. You know what? To not upset anyone, I'm going to say Rolo, because I kind of like that he causes trouble too, because he doesn't listen to anyone, and people will be shouting Dewey, which is the dog's real name, and he just causes a little bit of havoc on set, which I do find
I love it.
Pleasure in, which I shouldn't, but
yeah, you're like, I'm not going to pick a human, I'm going to pick the dog.
Exactly.
So do you have any funniest kind of stories that happen behind the scenes? And quick question, how many peanut butter and jelly sandwiches did you guys eat in that last episode?
So this is the one thing, when you have a scene where you're eating food, we never learn from our mistakes, because you should always know that when you're doing the wide shot initially, just don't eat too much of the food, because by take 100, especially at that dinner table scene where there's, I think, 5 of us around the table. So obviously you've got a wide, you've got a closer, and then you've got 2 shots and single, so you do a lot of takes. And Katrina and I had made the mistake of eating maybe about a sandwich and a bit during the first take, and then that meant that every time
what is a sandwich and a bit?
Well, as much as we could get through, because they were so chewy. But yeah, we ate a lot of peanut butter sandwiches. They were really, really good. They had jam in them too.
Do you feel like, I feel like the first 10 years of my life, I only ate peanut butter and jelly, and then I couldn't eat it for about 20 years. I feel like my math is off on that. And now I've been eating them during the pandemic, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be able to eat these soon.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like I do that with a lot of food. I get one food that I really like, and I'll just eat it, and then I'm like sick of it for a while.
Can we talk about the 2 actors that play Jemmy? They're so adorable. And it's like, I know it's tough working with kids probably, but I have a question. Other than you, who is their favorite to work with on set?
Probably Katrina, I think. Yeah, they love Katrina.
How come?
She's so great with them. You know, there's times where obviously I work with them a lot, so they start to trust me. But when people don't work with them as much, they can be a little bit distant. But Katrina seems to just bring them around straight away. You know, they have a tendency, bless them, to be sort of crying one minute and then hysterically laughing and then crying again. But she's really great at just sort of calming them down and, you know, getting them to do the scene, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I feel like that's how we all are right now. We're like crying one minute and like so happy the next.
Completely. One day it's like the best day ever and you're dancing around to cheesy music, and the next day you're just like, oh, just want to stay.
I was like, I'm gonna go sit in the bathtub. It's gonna be empty and I'm gonna be crying.
Exactly. I have a newfound sympathy for Andrew and Matthew. It's like they knew this pandemic was coming and they were preempting our behavior.
Yeah. They're just like, this is what it's gonna be like.
Yeah.
You've shared so many great like videos of them. Do you have any story about them that you can share that you haven't shared before?
Yeah, there was one day when I'd come into set and Andrew's mum came over to me and she was like, he thinks that you're the princess, and he keeps saying, oh, I want to, where's the princess? I want to see the princess. And I think it's because she told me later, because Brianna looks like, is it Merida from Brave?
Oh, yeah.
So that was very sweet. And it was the same day, actually, because we'd done the Clementine scene where I'm singing to Jemmy.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, come to the Easy Up, which is sort of where they hang out on set. It's like a white tent. Come in here, they've got something to show you. And I went in and they sang Clementine to me and they learned all the words and it was so sweet.
Oh my gosh. Did you have that on video, the two of them singing to you?
I don't know if I do, no, because I didn't know it was going to happen. But
yeah,
she might have it. Yeah,
that would be amazing. Yeah, I was going to say to you, like, wow, you really can sing well.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, like, I wasn't shocked. I like obviously know you're talented, but I was like, why don't they have Brianna singing as much as, because Roger singing, I don't hate Roger, but it was a little much for me in the beginning of the season, and I understand why they did it.
Yeah. No, it's funny actually, because it came about because someone told Matt Roberts, I think last season, somebody had said that I could sing, and I think initially Matt was sort of playing with me, and he was like, oh, well, we better have you sing next season. And I was like, maybe not. And then, it came about, and obviously there's the Clementine song where Bree sings it to Jemmy, and then Matt was like, we really like it. We want you guys to go in and record the song for the end credits. So
yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah. That was really beautiful.
Oh, good.
It seems like a lot of people on your set sing. Like, do you think there's like an Outlander musical like in the future?
I mean, I feel like an Outlander musical would actually be a really good idea. I don't know if Uslot would be very good in it, but maybe down the line. Although I know there's a trend, isn't there, for having a musical episode?
There is. I feel like,
I don't know if that would quite, they usually jar, don't they? And I think that might be a little.
I feel like you guys could do it as like a bonus on like a DVD. I don't know who has DVD players anymore, but
for sure. Yeah.
Or maybe during the pandemic, you guys could do a Zoom musical. Whose worst nightmare would that be on your cast?
Sam's, I think. Actually, I don't think I've ever. Katrina's got a nice voice. I don't think I've ever heard Sam sing. So there you go. That can be your job.
I know. I'll try to get him to sing. Who breaks the most in scenes, and who tries to get everyone back, like, you know, into the action?
Again, so I think Sam and Katrina just have this just natural balance between them, where when one of them's maybe being a bit giddy, the other one's trying to calm it down, and vice versa. There's one scene on the beach. And I actually saw a tweet the other day where someone was like, I think Katrina's laughing. I think they might have used a take where she's giggling. And when Jamie and Claire went over to Brianna, Katrina was just in fits of giggles. So we just kind of ended up having to just hug straight away because we were kind of trying to hide her face. And initially Sam was laughing quite a lot too. And then, I think he was then trying to be the grown up, and he was like, come on, you guys, you need to stop now.
Get it together. I actually think I saw that take.
Maybe
when you guys were on the beach and she's running towards you, and I was like, is Claire smiling? I was like, maybe it's just hard running in that whole outfit.
I think they just used a bad take where we were all giggling. But then, you know, the scene where Lord John Grey brings the letter from Tryon for Brianna, that scene, Sam was just giggling the entire time, and Katrina was the one then who had to be the grown up and be like, Sam, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's great. Like, you guys have to have some light fun, especially with how serious your storylines are.
Completely. And we film for so many months, and we film really long days, and in Scotland, it's very grey, it's very rainy, it's very muddy, it's very cold. So if we didn't laugh between takes, I think we'd all be a little bit.
I know. Well, especially on that cold beach, I imagine it was not the most ideal beach day in Scotland.
Not quite. So and I think it shines through as well, the banter between takes. I think then it shows it on screen that we all just get on. It feels like a family. So
I know you guys have such a nice family vibe, and that's like the best work environment, I think, when it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, we are really lucky.
If you could pick another character for your character to hook up with besides Roger, who would it be?
Do you know what? Everybody seems to love Brianna and Lord John Grey.
I know. That was a question I had, and I'll just skip ahead to it then.
There you go.
So if Lord John Grey didn't like your dad in that special way, do you think I think you and David have, like, I call it accidental chemistry.
Yeah.
Because Brianna and Lord John are obviously not supposed to have that romantic chemistry. But do you think if he didn't love your dad so much, that maybe there could be potential? Because you could be like Willie's stepmom's sister.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, right, that family tree. Yeah, I know, it's beautiful, and I love working with David. And he's one of my closest friends in real life too. And I think for Brianna and Lord John, it's that as well. And although it's kind of written that I think he's very protective over Brianna because of his love for Jamie, I actually think it becomes an independent thing to that. And I think that those really see each other on a very intellectual level, and I think that they say a lot without saying a lot to each other. I think they just really understand each other, and they really know what to say to make each other feel better, and it's just a really beautiful friendship. And I think come on, John Grey, please just turn straight, because I think
I know. We want him to find happiness. But David Barry said, I think on Twitter, that was his last show. Is that true?
His last thing for Outlander?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, he said something on Twitter.
I know that.
Yeah.
So
okay. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
I think he might be like lying to us, Lord John Grey. Like, this might be
trying to scare you all. But I mean, you never know. Tobias was wrapped on Outlander about 4 times and he came back. No one's ever dead, are they?
Yeah. Well, I think you took care of Bonnet.
Well, so, that one.
Unless Bonnet has a twin, that's a good twin. I think that's how Ed should come back.
That's a good twist. There you go.
Yeah.
Diana.
I know, I'll just tweet her. So is Bree going to start popping out babies as quickly as Marceline has? And let's talk about Marceline Fergus's birth control method.
Yeah, I mean, Marceline definitely didn't take Dr. Rawlings' advice, did she? She is very, very fertile. Can you imagine those two in quarantine?
Oh God, it would be like bunny.
Yeah, it would be like a septet. I know, it's very sweet. And do you know what though? They also have the best kids, like in terms of, Andrew and Matthew are absolutely amazing and I love them to pieces. But before we had them, there were a lot of equally amazing babies, but they just were really struggling with set. Whereas theirs are just so comfy on set and they're such little angels. And I'm just
Jermaine, who plays Jermaine, he is adorable.
Robbie, I know. So sweet. Sweet. But yeah, I definitely think that those two, I don't know what they're using. Brianna, I will say initially at the end of this season, Brianna did announce that she was pregnant, but then that got taken out. So maybe there will be more. Who knows?
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, because I saw people on Twitter being like, wait a minute, what happened to Mandy? I haven't read the books yet because I like to report on the show, just as a viewer.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me because I love reading and I'm like, I think I want to read that. Have you read book 6?
I haven't, no. I've actually stopped reading ahead now. The thing is, I love Diana's books and I do want to read it at some point. But for right now, it gets a little bit confusing because things have changed in the script. Brianna's very different now. She's at a very different place. So if I then read the book and the script, when you're filming for kind of 10 months, they start to merge together and you're like, hang on, did it happen in the book or the script? Like what? Yeah. And it can get a little bit easily confused. So
if you could play any other character on the show, who would it be?
Is it weird that Blackjack would be really fun to play?
I knew you were going to say that because he is the most fun. He's so freaking evil.
Uh-huh.
So, like, if you could bring Tobias back right now, would you want him to come back as Frank or Blackjack? Because I think Blackjack.
For the show, I think Blackjack. From Brianna's point of view, I'm like, oh, Frank. Frank got so much hate. Poor Frank.
He did.
Yeah.
Wait, so can you do a Scottish accent?
I think I can. I actually was going to do a film last year that was a Scottish accent. So somebody must think I can. Richard doesn't think I can, but I think he just was telling me that I'm terrible at things. So,
nice.
You know.
Yeah. Co-worker inspiration.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, so I have a question. Would you be able to impersonate either Roger or Jamie with a Scottish accent? I can tell you how good it is.
I mean, Jamie's feel is a lot more Highland, isn't it? I think Richard's initially was a kind of Inverness accent.
Mm-hmm. Let's do Jamie's then. Which one's easier for you?
Oh God, I can't even attempt that. They will butcher me.
I know, but that's kind of why I want you to do it. But
I think all Jamie says is Vera.
Very nice. Okay, I can't do it.
Yeah, you know.
All right, we'll skip that. But
singing isn't as Scottish, is it? I don't think.
No, that's true.
He's a little bit American, I think. Maybe.
Yeah. I tried to do a Scottish accent once, and it turned out Scottish accents and Indian accents are very similar because they both roll R. And so I did it as a joke at work. I think I may have done like some like Jamie Fraser line. And my coworkers are like, is Jamie Fraser Indian? Like, what's happening here?
I guess he is, actually.
Yes, he is. So is there anything that you and Richard disagree about your characters? Because I know when you guys first started.
Yeah. I feel like any argument that Brianna and Roger have, Richard and I end up, especially in interviews, we end up arguing about it. Because, you know, I think you do get so into your character's head, and you have to be in the headspace 100% that your character is. So naturally, you're going to defend whatever they're doing because you see it from their point of view. And a lot of the time, I just think Roger's an absolute moron at times. Yeah. I'll say it. Get into a few fights.
He's a little bit of a chauvinist. Like,
dude.
Maybe like a lot bit.
Yeah. It's just, I think, he's not the best at dealing with certain things, but they're getting better. I think their relationship in season 5 has come along a lot. Yeah. And they do grow from their arguments now as opposed to be torn apart from them, which is definitely a good thing.
And I love the interaction with like how your parents trying to help with that dynamic, which is so interesting to see in families that most shows do not show that, like, oh, your parents do affect how your marriage is, how they shape them. Because Brianna grew up with Claire and Frank. How do you think that impacted her?
I mean, I think we see it in season 2. Brianna is very distant from Claire. And that's one of the things, too, that I love that the show tackles, you know, the idea of a working mom not being able to raise her child. And that's definitely something that Claire had an issue with in her life. That was definitely apparent. And Frank really was Bree's dad. You know, he obviously not biological, but he was for all intents and purposes. And he was amazing with her. And she really did see him as her kind of hero. So I think it really did pull her toward Frank a lot. And Brianna was interested in history. I think a lot of it was she wanted to be interested in history because she wanted to be closer to Frank. Obviously, once he died, she changed to engineering. Mm-hmm. And I think also it's a very common thing with mothers and daughters that when you are very similar, you often clash heads a lot. Yeah. And so I think that Claire and Bree really did. I don't think they understood each other very well. But then once Bree knew about Jamie and everything else, even though initially it took a dip in their relationship in terms of, you know, not trusting her mother and having a secret for so long. And obviously that's such a mind mess, finding out that your dad is someone else who lived 200 years ago. But then it brought them closer because I think Bree then really started to understand Claire and started to forgive the fact that she had such an estranged upbringing, really, and that, you know, she and her parents didn't really get on as a three all that well. And I think she didn't really understand what love is because of that. Yeah.
And it's so nice to see the change. I do wish there were more scenes that showed Brianna, Claire, and Jamie together a little bit more, because I love your scenes with both of them. I know fans in particular, there have been a lot of Claire Brianna scenes, but in particular, people feel like Jamie and Brianna haven't gotten to share screen time enough. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I've seen a few things that people are saying that, you know, Bree's really cold toward Jamie, and it's like, well, No, she's not. It's just that we haven't seen many moments. You know, we see the scene at them at the dinner table in 11, which is lovely. But apart from that, you know, we don't have many moments with the two of them. So hopefully we will get a few more of that. But yeah, it'd be nice to have scenes of the three of them too, you know, especially all the goodbye scenes. And that's the thing too with Outlander, there's just so much to fit in. Diana's books are incredible and there's so much in them. So to fit all that into one season is really difficult. So unfortunately, it does mean that sometimes we don't get the interaction with characters that we'd want.
Yeah.
But even, you know, Brianna and Lizzie, I love their relationship. And
that's a scene.
I think that's one of my favorites in the whole thing. Caitlin's incredible to work with, and it's just such a lovely scene. And a lot of people are saying, you know, like, oh, why don't they just take Lizzie with her? They don't even know if she can time travel. But I think we forget that, you know, Lizzie is from a family that's very religious. She would find that absolute witchcraft that people are time traveling. You know, she's not going to understand it like young Ian does. She would probably shun the family because she'd be so freaked out. So it's not a case of Bree not wanting to tell her. It's that she knows that she just can't.
Yeah.
And it would put Lizzie in danger because then if Lizzie ever talked about time travel, people would think she was a witch and she'd probably be hanged. So it's horrible. Brutal. Poor Lizzie.
I know, poor Lizzie. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the 5th time I've cried in this episode. And usually I'm so mad at Lizzie because she really mucks things up with her inaccurate reporting.
Friends, yeah. Like, shut your mouth.
Zip it, Lizzie. But I call that the "it's not you, it's me" breakup between Brianna and Lizzie.
Yeah. But in that case, it's like actually true.
I know. You're like, I wish I could tell you. There's not anything else.
I really can't. And it's sad because I feel like Brianna, since episode 1, we see her really light at her wedding. Obviously, she's nervous before her wedding, and then the wedding's this beautiful ceremony, and she has this wonderful time, and we see a really light side of Brie, and then obviously she finds out about Bonnet still lurking around and still being alive. And from that episode until episode 11, she's had that looming over her the whole season. And I think that's just been such a heavy thing. And she's just been on edge all season. And I feel like Ep 11 is where she suddenly feels a little bit, it's like this weight's been lifted. I mean, she's not over her trauma by any means, but she knows that he's not lurking anymore and he can't take Jemmy and he can't hurt her family and he can't hurt her again. So it's so typical Outlander that as soon as one problem is solved, something else comes up. Because I feel Brie finally like let out all this air, and now it's like, oh, but we have to go back, so you should just say bye to everyone you love.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the first like 5-6 episodes, I was like, oh, it's so happy. I was like, they're gonna tear it all away from us. And then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I'm scared about the finale. And I've seen a few of your interviews. You guys have said like, oh, grab the tissues. And we know something bad happens to Claire, obviously. And the book readers have been on Twitter warning everyone.
Yeah.
So when did you see the finale?
Katrina and I had talked about, because obviously as producers they get it a little bit earlier. So it was maybe a few weeks prior to filming it, maybe. And then I think we get our scripts quite late, actually. So maybe like a couple of days before the read through, probably. So pretty much straight into filming it was when I read it. And yeah, obviously, you know, because of the books, we kind of knew what was coming as well. But yeah, pretty brutal. Yeah.
What was your reaction when you read the script? And then I want to know, like, what was the table read like?
The table read was, intense, because it does just put such a heavy weight on the end of the season, and also just on the room. It is just really brutal material. For me, it's funny because I kind of end up, whenever I read a script, I'm reading it as Brianna. So even reading the Claire stuff, it just felt, it's brutal, but I was reading it from Brie almost, that it's just horrific that her mother's going through something that she's been through something so similar in. And I think, it's awful. And I think the one thing Brie wants to do is just be there for her mother.
Yeah.
And actually one of my favorite bits of it is there's just a really sweet scene between Claire and Brianna. And it's one of those things where, as I think has been lovely with them lately, sometimes the less said, the more said, sort of thing. And there's hardly any words in the scene, but it just really shows that Brie's sort of saying, you know, I get it. And whatever you need, I want to help.
Well, it was very similar to in episode 11 when you guys hugged goodbye. In my recap, I said you start crying before it even happens. And when you say mama,
Yeah.
and it's like one of those hugs that you can only get from your mom. And,
yeah.
and you don't need words. So do you think the show has shown Bree's PTSD enough? And like, do you think they'll continue into season 6, especially with, I mean, you know, Jamie's had a sexual assault, Bree has, I think we know what's coming for Claire, dealing with all of that. Do you think we're going to see them kind of dealing like that as a family?
One thing that's difficult about the sexual assault element is that it's something that can be very easily misrepresented, or, you know, it can be done in a wrong way. I think Outlander is very good at ensuring that when characters are raped, it's not just kind of done and dusted and they're fine. But obviously there are times where, again, I said there's so much to fit into the show, and sometimes it does sometimes feel like maybe that's taken a bit of a, not so much a sideline, but just there's maybe not time to sit with it for a while.
Yeah.
So for me, it was things that I wanted also to be conscious of the fact that a lot of the PTSD triggers and responses and things, you know, even if somebody's walking past Bree and she wasn't expecting it, and there's a slight, just that kind of animal jump slightly. I never want to make anything too big, because it wouldn't be. But if it's too discreet and we're not actually making a point of getting it, then it could be easily missed. So there were times where I really wanted to make sure that, it was sort of said that was what was happening. So sometimes, there's just, you know, there's times where it is given the time in the script, and then other times it's just times where you want to try and get it in there yourself. Like even, you know, the fact Brianna doesn't sleep, or she's scared of sleep and all of that. Which is a shame almost from the books that we couldn't fit in about the dream diaries and stuff, because I think that would have shown a little bit more what Bree was going through.
Yeah.
And then, with episode 10 even, so with that I wanted to show that when Bree's seeing Bonnet and Epi, it's almost like Bree's experiencing the rape again and she's reliving the whole thing. So I researched all the rape stuff again, just to make sure that everything that happens with her body is happening all over again.
Yeah.
And then even with that, at the end of Ep 10, Brianna has a bruise on her head throughout that episode where Bonnet hit her before he kidnapped her. And they wanted it to be gone by the time, they wanted the time frame to be a little bit ambiguous, and they wanted the bruise to be completely gone when Bonnet's drowned. So it's kind of like Bonnet's gone. But it's tricky, because I was trying to say, well, you know, that just because the man is gone, the event and the trauma hasn't.
Yeah.
You put a bullet in the man, but you can't destroy what happened. And it's definitely something that I'm sure the show might not really have time for. And as the show, I think they've kind of wrapped up that story now, which is fair enough. But for me, in Bree's performance, I definitely will try to keep on incorporating it, because it's not really something that ever just goes in the past.
I actually think like when Bonnet did that to Effie in front of you, that was like Bree's character being raped all over again. And I think it's like PTSD has so many phases, so I'm glad you're going to keep that in your performance. And I also think, like, do you think Bree is going to feel guilty for leaving Claire?
Yeah, I do, because I think for the both of them, they're both very aware now that they didn't get on for 20 years, and now they've actually become really good friends, as much as mother and daughter. And I think their relationship's beautiful, and then it does kind of roundabouts where Bree will almost be the mother to Claire and vice versa. And I think they have such a mutual respect for each other now that they're both mothers. I think Bree understands a lot more what Claire was going through. So I think for Bree, she's aware that Claire's kind of losing her people too. And I love that we have those moments where Claire and Bree can actually talk about the 60s. And these are those moments where, again, I think it's easy to forget throughout the show that these people are having to put on a bit of a show the whole time. They have to watch their language, they have to watch their demeanor, they have to watch their references, and it must be exhausting. So I think Brianna knows that even on that level, Claire will miss the fact that she can't really just be herself around Brianna and talk about burgers and whatever else. And she's losing her daughter and her grandchild, and just all these things.
Can we talk about the fact that, like, I have to say, like, I was so sad, like, why did they have to leave? Like, did you as Sophie want them to leave? Or because I was just like, wait, your family's here, your parents are here.
Yeah, it's funny, Richard and I were actually talking about this while we were filming it, because I was sort of saying, we don't know what we're going back to. We make reference to the fact that the Vietnam War was going on when we left. For all we know, we're taking Roger and Brianna and Jemmy to World War III. We don't know what's happening in the future. You
could land like in a war field.
Literally, we're just like, oh, brilliant, okay. And we have no ID. Jemmy doesn't have a birth certificate. We have no money. So I don't know.
Like, logistically, this is not our best plan.
Yeah, it's like American Revolution or potential World War.
I know. So but imagine if they landed in the Vietnam War and they're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, we just go back. Yeah, it's a tricky one because I suppose that's such an apparent theme as parents, isn't it? Like, what do you do for the best for your child? I guess you never know what is going to be the best.
Well, it seems like the Stones may have mucked up a bit. Something went wrong, and I'll find out Saturday and we'll email about that.
Yeah, they definitely see something funky. Who knows?
Yeah. Do you think Outlander will be renewed for season 7? Because I think that's the kind of news we need right now.
I know. I'm so glad that it aired at this time because I think it has helped a lot of people through isolation.
Yeah. Notwithstanding the finale, which I
apologize. At least boundaries are lifting now. Regulations are lifting. People can go out of it more, so I'm sorry about the finale. I feel like every episode we say that. We're like, it's really lovely, but you will need tissues.
Yeah. I was like, you'll need whiskey, or you'll need tissues, or you'll need both. And alcohol is a depressant, so probably don't have too much whiskey.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a nice roundabout. Just have peanut butter jelly sandwiches to
pick you up again. After this interview, that's all I'm going to do. Exactly. And then when we talk again, probably like next week, I'm going to be like, I hate those sandwiches.
Yeah, like I ate too many.
No. Oh, what would you think it would be like if Jamie and Frank ever met? Like, what would their first line be to each other? Because I think Frank would be like, oh, I see why your mom chose him. Makes sense.
That's a good question. I honestly think their first line would be, they're both gentlemen, and they both love Claire and they both love Brianna. And actually, I think they're both mature enough I think there'd almost be a thank you from both of them. Each of them has protected Claire and Brianna at different points in their life. And I think they're actually both really grateful for that. And I know that, people would love for there to be a little bit of animosity there. But I think what they've both done has been really incredible for the...
Yeah. I actually love that your show doesn't go for the, like, I like that Marceline and, I almost said Marceline and Sophie. I like that Marceline and Brianna are such good friends and are not vying for Claire's attention. Like, the female dynamics are so important. Was that a conscious decision?
Yeah, I think initially there was a little bit of animosity between the two of them and a bit of sister rivalry, but we sort of said, look, let's not, shows do that all the time where women are batting against each other. And again, it's that thing of, we were saying before about it's not always, oh, men do this to women. It's often women doing things to women. And it was really lovely to actually show that, no, women can support each other. You don't need to be jealous that she's in the nice dress or that she's getting a hug right now or whatever else. You should all just be happy for each other. And actually that'll make all of the relationships blossom more. So it was good that was sort of added in a lot in terms of them getting on as sisters.
And it made sense because obviously Brianna does not like blood. Marceline loves to chop up animals and do weird shit like that. And Katrina, oh my God. And Claire's character, like, their dynamic as like doctor and med student is so entertaining.
Yeah,
and so really different from Claire and Brianna's dynamic.
Completely. And I think Brianna would just be happy that her mum does have a good apprentice and somebody that she can experience all of that with. So. Yeah.
No one would like a show we wrote because it would just be like, it's just women getting along and supporting each other.
We just cut people up and drink whiskey.
No, it's amazing. And peanut butter jelly sandwiches. Bark.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you think COVID is going to affect the Outlander set when you guys get back? The reason I'm asking is I saw an article the other day that said some TV shows and movies might not have love scenes. People are going to be wearing masks. Do you think no love scenes would fly on Outlander?
I heard about this, and I didn't know how much was hearsay and how much was actually true. But yeah, I did see that people on set might have to wear masks until action, which obviously hair and makeup would hate. We didn't really wear much makeup in Outlander at all anyway, but even just making your face red or whatever. So that wouldn't help. And then, something about kissing scenes being faked. And I was like, you guys haven't seen Outlander because
you can't fake that.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, can you even imagine the fans? Like,
Claire and Jamie from 6 feet apart, just blowing kisses. It's just not going to happen.
A 6 feet away love scene? I don't know.
I don't know. I think maybe we're going to have a lot of exteriors next season is my guess, because at least we can social distance a little bit more. But in Outlander, a lot of our sets are, our stages are huge, but each kind of individual room, you're all just kind of on top of each other. So I don't think 50 people in, a few square feet is going to fly. So
your characters are literally on top of each other. So I do not know how that could operate in a COVID world. But I feel like there's ways that they can do like testing and everything, like just make sure people are socially isolating. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But when do you think you guys will go back to work?
I don't know. I mean, hopefully within the next few months, when things really do start to lift. But I've heard that some productions aren't going till January. But I think it depends on location as well. I mean, obviously we're an American show, but we do have a British production company as well, Left Bank, and we film in Glasgow. So it just depends what their rules and regulations are there. And I think the sooner that all of us are in Glasgow and we've quarantined and whatever else, or isolated and and that too, I think hopefully we'll be okay. It's not as if we have people flying from all over. We do have people from all over the world, but hopefully they won't all be flying over,
I hope you guys everyone's socially distanced and isolated enough that you guys can go back safely as a crew to get the work done, because it takes so long. And I was thinking, we're not going to get a new show from you guys for like 2 years.
I know Outlander's been pretty brutal lately, hasn't it?
I have a idea to get people through Outlander that I'll talk to you later about. But well, it might include a Zoom interview for charity. I thought about it last night. I was like, Sam and Katrina have said that when they've traveled on planes, they've seen people watching Outlander. Has that happened to you?
That hasn't happened to me. Okay. But no, I think Sam was once sat behind somebody who was watching it. I don't know what Katrina's experience was, but I'd imagine that would be a little bit awkward.
I know.
That's my butt. Great.
Yeah, that's just my butt in your seat.
Yeah.
That you're looking at. Yeah, I don't. Well, luckily we can't really fly anymore, ish.
I know. Although I have to say, one of the worst things on a plane is when you're watching something and there is a slightly promiscuous scene, and people are looking at you, and you just want to be like, I'm not watching porn. It's a legitimate TV show, so at least Outlander. It
is the most educated porn you will ever watch.
Exactly.
Just back off. Exactly. It's feminist porn.
At least you wouldn't judge them because you'd recognize the show and you'd be like, it's okay.
Yeah. All right.
We'll be fine.
Sophie, thank you so much. We'll talk more Sunday then. Okay. Bye.
Okay. Enjoy it.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.